Season opening race weekend for the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup, and we're at Sigulda in Latvia. The track built by the USSR as a testing facility in the 1970s. It's been updated and lengthened since, and it still produces phenomenally close racing and a real challenge for our athletes. Hello everybody, welcome back to Sigulda. Martin Haven here, ready to call the action from the first of our two heats today. And this track, tight and twisty. For luge and skeleton, it's a challenge. For two-man, it is like a prolonged set of the doodles from Koenigsegg, almost from start to finish. 1,200 busy meters. You start 5 stories up in the elevated start building on pylons above the ground. Start record for Latvia's Oskars Ķibermanis. Set that in race 1 last season. That was in February this year, 15th of February. Here we are, 21st of November, back again in Sigulda. Busy upper labyrinth. You get no chance to breathe here out of corner 6, whipping down into 7, 8 and 9. Much smaller corners, and then big pressure at corner 10, and that's on and off very quickly, setting up for 11. One of the key corners coming up next, off 12 into 13. The exit here on the second pressure is sort of a pressure and a half. Exit to 13 into 14, very tricky. Long straight down to 15. Exit here important because you go uphill over the outrun, dropping back down into 16 and out to the final corner, climbing up past the finish line, hopefully not hitting the wall too hard. Francesco Friedrich, our World Olympic and World Cup champion, is the downtime record holder here. Raced only once in February. That was in the first day's action. Just enough to claim the World Cup crown. Air temperature hovering around 3 degrees, ice down at -4, and it is slightly overcast, not damp though. It's a great look at the bobsled runners. Rounded, polished to mirror perfection to reduce drag, because drag and friction are not your friends. Alexander Schuler warming up. Now he is the alternate today. He's been a race winner here for Francesco Friedrich, but Friedrich down with Torsten Margis for race 1. There is big Torsten. Of course, Francesco Friedrich, not the only German sled here. We see Johannes Lochner on our start draw as well. That's Christian Rasp, his brakeman. The two Bavarians, there is Hansi. And a return to the World Cup as well for Christoph Hafer. Hafer has had half of his World Cup career on this track. So is he something of a specialist, or does he keep drawing the short straw? Hard to tell. Well, there's Oskars Ķibermanis, man that we're expecting to be right up at the sharp end. 2 silver medals in the first World Cup weekend here a couple of years ago, 2 gold medals in February. And Ķibermanis, last 2 years, has been a runner-up in the World Cup in the hunt for the Crystal Globe as well. So strong German lineup, strong Latvian crews as ever. And we have 13 sleds in our entry list. The Russians were here, were training, but unfortunately because of a positive COVID test in the camp, they are all in self-isolation. And at least until after Christmas, we believe, no US, no Canadian sliders, no Chinese, no Koreans either. So it's a predominantly European-based season and predominantly European-based entry list. Mattia Variola will be the first man to kick off the season ahead of Dāvis Kaufmanis. Then Baumgartner from Italy. 2 Swiss here, Simon Friedli. And his teammate we'll see later down the order, Mihai Vogt. And Ralfs Bērziņš also representing Latvia. Heinrich from France. Dominik Dvořák, Czech Republic. Hansi Lochner, we've already seen him. And Mihai Tentea of Romania. BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup season starts here and now at Sigulda in Latvia with Mattia Variola and Constantino Ugi. Variola in his 20th World Cup start, his 12th in two-man. And last season finished 19th and 18th in a packed field. 6th two-man World Cup start for veteran brakeman Constantino Ugi, the 29-year-old, and only a 4-man man. Buzz, repetition of man there, just a few moments in. 5:03 start for the Italians. 2 to 3, little tap almost unavoidable, and then 4, 5 and 6. When you get into the slightly slower labyrinth, 7, 8 and 9, whip off corner 10, big 180 corner 11, little rattle down into 12, 13 is key, oof, late off 13. It was very soggy on the final day of training for these guys on Friday. Thursday, beg your pardon. Variola out of 16, rattles the wall as well, 50.11. Max Arndt, the coach, possibly not over-thrilled with that one, but look at his race suit. It's been spiked by his brakeman getting in, or maybe not. I don't think that's all damage on Costantino's suit from this run either. Using older training suits just in case. Late there, and a flop, and a hard take on into corner 11. This is exit 14, watch the runner tips, not too much correction going on, just takes the little tap and ignores it. Doesn't quite nudge the nose out as far as he would have hoped though. So Mattia Variola has got the season underway. Next up for Latvia, a World Cup debutant, Dāvis Kaufmanis with Ivo Kleinbergs, also making his World Cup debut. So Dāvis Kaufmanis, familiar name because he's a long-serving brakeman. He's been driving now for 2 seasons. Former shot putter and discus thrower. Raced in the Europa Cup last year. He finished 4th in the first Europa Cup race here in January, 7th in the second. And that was a field that had a lot of World Cup talent in it as well, brushing up on their Sigulda skills. 2900s in front of Variola. Of course, not only did he grow up learning to push in the ice house here, he did learn to drive predominantly on this track. Best speed so far, 101.5. Speed continues to climb. We'll see north of 125 kilometers an hour at the bottom. 3500s up on 25 as he goes into 15. And then you scrub off speed in the corner, lose more uphill. So they're only doing 15 kilometers an hour less at the finish line than they were 2 corners earlier. 49.72 though. That's a good opening effort from Dāvis Kaufmanis. So the Latvian gets his driving career underway in the World Cup off a 4:89 start. You don't ever expect the Latvians to be tardy in the getaway, and these two were not either. Track probably a little faster and harder and less grippy than it was on the final day of training. That it takes some adjustment. You have to recalibrate exactly what you're thinking. But the local guys should have a bit more of a handle on it. So congratulations on their debut. Welcome to the World Cup. Next up, Italy's 26-year-old former Youth Olympic champion. He was the first ever Youth Olympic champion in boys bobsleigh in Innsbruck 2012. Patrick Baumgartner, now 26 years old, making his 13th World Cup start in 2-man. And Lorenzo Bilotti, his 26-year-old brakeman, his 2nd World Cup 2-man start. The only previous start for him was Lake Placid, November 2017 in 2-man. 400-metre sprinter is more of a 4-man. Clearly has come out strong this season. Late in with a handle, 5:02 start for Baumgartner. That's Olympic podium, by the way. Patrick Baumgartner gold, silver Benny Meyer, bronze Rudy Rinaldi. Well, neither the Monegasque nor the Austrian are here, but are of course still competing. At least we assume they are. Until they compete this season, can't necessarily say that. Hoping to compete, let's put it that way. Baumgartner in the red, but only 1800s back. 2nd best speed, 113.9 to 114.2 of Dāvis Kaufmanis, so not too far away from the Latvian. And again, 124.7, 125.1. And that was very close at the line. He kept the speed alive, didn't he? Yes, he's more experienced in World Cup terms. World Cup number 13 compared to World Cup number 1 for Kaufmanis. But in terms of knowledge of the track, Dāvis Kaufmanis has a lot more. Simone Bertazzo down there helping with the sled. Not the greatest hit between the two. You saw that Baumgartner was late on the handle. You ideally want the driver to hit the front handle as the brakeman is trying to break the inertia of the sled. So it takes some of the weight off the brakeman's efforts, but Patty Baumgartner, Lorenzo Bilotti, second ahead of teammate Mattia Variola and Costantino Ugi. So 3 down. Next up is Swiss Simon Friedli, another former brakeman who is now driving. Finished 20th in race 1 after a crash while in medal contention last year, or last season, in February, and then bounced back to take the silver medal in race 2. So no shortage of blood and guts with these guys. Less blood, but more guts. Let's see what he's got. This is his 4th World Cup in 2-man as a driver. 4.96 getaway. Dominik Schlepfer, his brakeman, only his 2nd World Cup. Raced once before, Lake Placid in January in 2020. But that was not with Friedli, that was with Cedric Follador. Another, effectively the 3rd of our Swiss drivers. 1016, good speed. He's in the red, but coming up. 700's back at the start. They dropped a 10th the back, and now he has the lead and the best speed. 114.5. Ooh, little skiddy out of 15. That'll cost him. 126.0. That's enough, surely, to lead at the line. It is. 300's not much in it. It's only a 1,200-meter track. And there are a lot of ways of throwing away speed here. But that was good effort from Simon Friedli and Dominik Schlepfer. Silver medalists in the last race on this track. That was February the 16th this year. Again, just a little hung up there on the exit. I say a little, Brakeman says a lot. And that's a hard transition then. Hard on the take-on. And then out of 14, how much does he steer? Nothing at all. Watch the front runners. Doesn't even flinch. And over the brow from 15 into 16, rattles the wall. That's probably good enough for 500ths of a second, maybe more. Sled in the scabbards, going onto the weighing scales, and it'll go onto the truck, you can see in the right-hand side. Next up for Romania, Mihai Tentea, 10th and 11th in the 2 races here in February. The 21-year-old in only his 5th World Cup 2-man start. He has contested 3 World Championships, though, before now. So 4 previous World Cup races, 2 of them here in February. He'll do another 2, so by the end of this weekend, 2/3 of his entire World Cup career will be here in Latvia. And there'll be a further 2 races next weekend here in Sigulda as well. He's been nowhere else. In the red, but not by much. This is a decent looking run from Mihai. 700's behind at the start. Ooh, the speed's really not there. Andrea Grecu, who was the silver medalist here in last year's European Championships, did not have a good day today. She really struggled for speed, didn't even make the top half dozen. 4th best speed, and at the line, 4/10ths back. I think Mihai would have wanted a little bit more. Not sure that Romanians have got quite what they need here. They were in good form last year, particularly Andrea Grecu. We'll take a look here at the start. 5:03, same as Mattia Variola and Costantino Ugi. and Dvořák. Those big long meat hooks getting neatly down behind his driver. Mihai is not the tallest of drivers, and Ķibermanis completely buried on the floor of the sled behind him. Well, that takes away time. I'm going to check up a couple times on that slide uphill out of corner 15. And take speed out of the sled. 5 sleds down, and Friedli of Switzerland, last year's silver medalist, is our race leader. Next up for Germany, Christoph Hafer, the 28-year-old with 28-year-old Christian Hammers behind him. First race of the two-man BMW IBSF Bobsleigh World Cup in Sigulda in Latvia. 8th two-man start for Christoph. He was 12th and 4th in February's races here, off a 5.02 start. This is his 8th World Cup start, and so far 4 of those have been here in Sigulda. So again, drawing a short straw. This is just coincidence, we'll have to wait and see. Third best speed from the FES two-man. Oh, and a little late flop. Gathers it all back up. Oh, late here again. Gets out of 14 with no major dramas. 13 has been a bit of an Achilles heel. Compatriot Larinolta crashed in the first heat of the women's race. Martina Fonteneva, Switzerland, crashed in the second. 49.65, that was a good run down at the bottom. He takes the lead away by 0.04 of a second from Friedli. Held it all together at the bottom. Thought for a moment he used to be in trouble in corner 13. That's a very late exit. You don't get many chances like that to get it back again. 13-14 transition, really important again. Cutting lots of ice as he comes late off 14. But still, there is Christoph Hafer, our race leader. I wonder if he's got a chance of a medal here this weekend. Well, there'll be somebody next up ready to try and deny him. Oskars Ķibermanis of Latvia, 27-year-old. Won both races here in February. Those are his only two-man wins. 11 further podiums. He's twice been the World Cup runner-up, including last season. 55th two-man race start. Only one driver in the field has done more two-man World Cup races than Oskars Ķibermanis. And Oskars with 28-year-old brakeman Mats Miknes behind him. His regular partner for many seasons in two-man and always a reliable part of the four-man crew. In the green from the start. Fastest start. Looks like this is going to be the fastest down time as well. Wow, only the 5th best speed. Not a long way away, but nearly a kilometre down on Friedli. Gaps down to 600, still only the 6th best speed. Runner setup is not good, runner choice rather is not good today on this Latvian sled. 5th best speed, not major mistakes, but he's not the leader. 2300s back in 5th position. Well, some nodding from Sandis Prusis. That'll be some head shaking, I think, from Oskars Ķibermanis. 1700s at the start, he built it to 2200s, but then it all went away. He lost half a second, 5500s, from 2200s up to 2300s back. 4500s, can't count. Not the greatest hit either. Sled shouldn't be off the ice, that's going upwards. Pushing it forwards is the intention. Late here off 14, not badly. It's just to nurse it down nicely. But you would be surprised that the Lat for Should be surprised that Latvians don't have the speed here. 23 hundredths of a second off the lead. So a 29th two-man World Cup start for Johannes Lochner of Germany, but the Bavarian has never raced here. Christian Rasp, 31-year-old Berchtesgaden-born policeman, is his brakeman. 9th two-man start for Christian. And Hansi Lochner, 4 wins, 9 other podiums in two-man racing. 484, here we go, quicker than the best Latvian start. And of course, for Hansi, the battle is not with Ķibermanis, although he'll be a factor. The battle is with Francesco Friedrich. Christoph Hafer behind now as Lochner spears away. 101.1, 101.6 for Friedli. Hafer sled fastest at the next clock, 114.8. Oh, just straighten it up into 15. Little tap over the hill into 16. We've lost the speeds. But Hansi is 2/10 up and at the line, 14 hundredths in front. And a new track record, 49.51 Jarvol, I think. "85" are the first words you will hear, because the first thing the brakeman always wants to know is, what did we start? The driver will be happy with a new track record and the race lead. So 100th ahead of the track record set by Francesco Friedrich in February this year. That was with Martin Grotkopp, with whom he'd won the previous year. If memory serves, was that Martin's last race? I think it might have been. Takes the double pressure well here. And there's Hansi Lochner, Christian Rasp on the left. Hansi with the lead for at least a couple of sleds, perhaps. So what about Roman Heinrich from France? Lionel Lefebvre behind him. 4th two-man start for Lionel. It's a 39th two-man start for Roman Heinrich, who started as a brakeman. This is his 21st driving. And an up and down weekend in February. 15th in race 1, 6th in race 2. Teammate Margot Bock made her World Cup start for the season this morning. She finished in 5th position. Heinrich behind Hansi Lochner from the start. Ooh, and a long way behind, goodness me. 19 hundredths back at the start, 42 hundredths back now. 4th best speed, stabilising the gap. See if he can find something down at the bottom. Only 0.4 of a kilometre an hour down on speed at that stage. And 14.7 to 114.8 of Hafer. This is very good. Keep it clean now, Roma. Nice run into 16. Don't hit the wall on the exit. Good across the line. Still 44 hundredths back, though. Little round of applause from Max Robert. Well, that gap went out early on in the upper labyrinth. All the time went away from the start. There were 19 hundredths back at the start on Lochner, but only a 100th back on Christoph Hafer. 5:03 getaways, not at all bad. Replay here off 14. Steering late, cutting a bit of ice. And the tap then nudges him over, actually to the side you want, which is to be on driver's left coming up to 15. Then exiting 15 over the brow. Did he rub the wall? Didn't look like it, but skidding into 16. It's another few hundreds gone away there. Yeah, look at that. You don't want to be looking out the side window into turns. This isn't rallying. So Roman Heinrich and Lionel Lefebvre lying in 7th place. Second of our Latvian sleds next up. And this is Ralfs Bērziņš. Third of our Latvian sleds next up. This is Ralfs Bērziņš. And our lead Latvian, by the way, is Dāvis Kaufmanis, who is our World Cup debutant. Yes, he is ahead of Oskars Ķibermanis, the double race winner in February. So what can Ralfs Bērziņš do? Well, Ralfs only ran in the first race in February. He was 6th in that one. And then Oskars Melbardis, I beg your pardon, raced on Sunday. Bērziņš behind from the start. 5 flat. So 600s behind. Fifth fastest start, he's out to 7th. 3200s back, 101.2. He's sort of in the same position that we just saw from Heinrich and from Oskars Ķibermanis. 4th best speed, still 7th though, behind Ķibermanis, but ahead of Heinrich. And again, that was a good looking drive. 6, he's ahead of Ķibermanis by 800ths of a second. I say that like that's measurable to the human eye, but it's more than a couple of hundreds. So 5 flat at the start. Not been too many faster starts. Arnis Bebris, by the way, forgot to mention his brakeman, 24 years old on the back handles. His World Cup debut. He's only had 8 two-man races in European Cup and the Junior Worlds. And they find themselves in a top 6 position, but that's a horrid noise. That's like nails down a blackboard, isn't it? Aluminium on steel. Ralfs Bērziņš then in 6th position ahead of the double winner in February, Oskars Ķibermanis, but it is Hansi Lochner that leads from his teammate Christoph Hafer with Friedli in 3rd. So 10 sleds down in our first heat, the season opener of the BMW IBSF two-man bobsleigh World Cup. Next up is the Olympic champion, the world champion, and the World Cup champion in two-man, Francesco Friedrich. 63rd World Cup two-man start for Francesco, and 484 ties to the 100th, the start of current leader and teammate Johannes Lochner. So now what can Francesco do down the ice? 200s in front. Little rattle from 2 to 3, 4, 5, and then whipping off 6. 7, 8, 9. Gap continues to grow, 400ths of a second. Whoa. Now he's tied at only the 8th best speed. That's not good news. He's in the red. Now, can he find something in 15 and 16? Still only the 8th best speed. He's not going to be the leader at the line. He's the 2nd of the Germans. I was wondering whether he'd only be the 3rd. So German 1, 2, 3. Suddenly, Sigulda a German track? Well, looks like it is at the moment. A win in the women's race for Mattia, the Olympic champion. And that despite the fact that she crashed her sled on the first day of training this week, and destroyed it, or broke it so badly that it couldn't be run again. And she then had to wait 2 days for another sled to be driven from Germany. So the sled she drove today, she had never driven before. Okay, it's the same sled, but it's not the same sled. They will have done everything to make the steering exactly as close as they could, but she still had to work with a new piece of kit. Francesco Friedrich didn't crash and wreck the sled in training. But nevertheless, he is in the hunt, 800ths off the lead. Frankly, even when Friedrich is 8/10ths off the lead, he's dangerous, isn't he? So you saw Torsten Margis just on the left of your shot there. Next up, Dominik Dvořák with Jakub Nošek, of course, behind him. Jakub, so often part of the team. And Dvořák, another brakeman turned driver, the former decathlete. This is his 28th World Cup start, only 2 of which have been as a brakeman. Let's see what the sled from the Czech Republic can produce. 7th in race 1 last year, 4th in race 2. a while it really looked like he might be in the medals. 5th fastest start. That's a good way to get underway, 4:92. Only giving away 800s to the best starters. That gap has grown, 1900s in the upper labyrinth. Blocking off 10 into 11. Woo! Little rattle. Out of 13, he's late. Oh. Normally when you see that much ice flying up under the camera, it's not a good outcome. 15 to 16, little squirrely. Only the 11th best speed. Not a top draw run, I'm afraid. Shakes his head. Look at this, late exit, rattles the wall hard. So you're cutting ice in the corner, then you slam into the wall. All of that takes energy out. Again, you can see working really hard to get it off the turn. That's such a quick transition, that little whip. 13 to 14. Again, off 14. See the sled rocking and rolling. Hypermotion shows you so much that you sort of almost get as it's happening live. It's a busy run for the driver from the Czech Republic. Final sled in the first of our 2 heats here. Race 1 of 2 this weekend for the 2-man bobsleigh World Cup. Mihai Vogt, 13th in the first heat in February, 9th in the first day, 9th in the second race, with Sandro Michel, 24-year-old, behind him. 23-year-old driver in his 16th World Cup start in 2-man. 16th race. 4 of his races so far in his career have been here, so more than a quarter of his World Cup career has already been played out. We'll add another 4 races here in Sigulda in the next 2 weeks. So he'll be up to 19 races, of which 8 will have been in Sigulda. Nearly half of his World Cup career will be here. Vogt, 3rd best speed, 6th at the start. He's closing in. Top 5 run at the moment. Do you know what? This is looking really smooth as well. Little rattle there just to make me a liar. Still a top 5 run, 4th best speed. This is really good. Closing in on teammate Simon Friedli. How far behind? He's not behind, he's ahead of Friedli. That's a really good run. Very nice indeed. A 49.67 run off a 4.93 start. So good out of the blocks and good all the way down the ice. Mihai Vogt of Switzerland, the 23-year-old, is in 4th place, 200s out of a medal. 200s ahead of his teammate Simon Friedli. There's a few hundreds there. That late exit, not the hardest take on we've seen. That helps keep the speed alive. And off 14. Takes the tap, doesn't panic. Come back, baby, come back. Thank you. And then up the hill into 15. Down the hill into 15. So interesting battle for the medals then. Johannes Lochner of Germany. The Bavarians are leading. Johannes Lochner and Christian Rasp are 800s in front after the first heat. They had the fastest start. That was then tied by Francesco Friedrich, but they beat Friedrich's previous best ever run down the ice to set a new track record by just 1/100th of a second. Leading after the first heat of the year. That's good news for Hansi Lochner. Look at the battle behind though. And actually, look at the battle. 0.2 of a second, top 6. Baumgartner only 600 behind Kaufmanis. And look where the Swiss are, both poised to pounce. Hafer, the first of 3 sleds covered by 400ths of a second. It's all going to be change around in the second heat. So lots to think about after the first of our 2 heats. The sledge will be back on ice at 3:30, which is 13:30 local time, 55 minutes from now. Will we have a new winner here in Sigulda? We may well do. Join me, Martin Haven and the IBSF TV crew for our Heat 2 in 55 minutes from now. We'll see you then.